Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of Power Reading the Bible. Today, our reading was from Genesis 41 to Exodus 2, and this chapter starts to follow the story, really into the story of Joseph. Basically talking about his family. I had said previously that I wanted us to look at Joseph's story as a whole. So because his story started previously in yesterday's reading, but wanted to look at it as a whole because the bulk of it happens in these chapters. So from his childhood, right when he was sold into slavery, to being in Egypt and basically prevailing. That's what these chapters cover. So let's jump right into it. My number one insight is still touching on the Joseph family dynamic. So you can see the Bible said that his brothers didn't like him, obviously, because of their father's obvious love and favor for him. But it said something that should catch your attention. It said that Joseph brought a bad report to their father. It was something that Joseph used to do. So we can't say that Joseph was without flaws. So Joseph must have been that probably annoying little sibling who not only was he having dreams that was triggering jealousy, do you get? But then again, their father loved him more than the others, and also he had the habit of snitching, what you would call snitching. So of course it was almost like all the odds were against him. But then again, what I began to see here was we can't I know that the Bible deliberately mentioned that because we can't negate Joseph of basically being without flaws. Do you see? We can't negate it from being without flaws. And it's a dynamic of a child who knows that he's been favored, who knows that he's loved by his father, can subtly become the overbearing golden child, even without them knowing sometimes, or many times they milk that attention. They just, So I love that the Bible actually mentioned that. And the reason why I love that is I think it was trying to bring a balance between who Joseph was as a younger person and what he became when he was more mature. Because the same Joseph who would tell his dream, carelessly, I think, and kind of triggering jealousy, was the same Joseph who in the future and later times would say, our interpretation is not from the Lord, which was signifying humility and maturity. And I really love that. I really love the dynamic of someone who was once, guess what I dreamt today? I saw all of you bowing down to me. It's the same who was saying, you know what? The interpretation is not come from the Lord. I really love that the Bible highlighted that. That was my, number one insight. My number two insight was Joseph in Potiphar's house, what he encountered with Potiphar's wife. Potiphar had left him in charge of his household. Joseph was handling everything. I mean, he was this competent, excellent young man. And of course, the eye of Madam fell on him. But Joseph wasn't compromised. And I can imagine him being just this young, probably attractive young man who was hardworking and all that. But the thing is, Joseph could have fallen, and Joseph might have gotten away with it if he had decided to sin against God by bedding Potiphar's wife. I mean, it might have been kept hush-hush. Maybe best that would have happened, she would have promoted him to maybe senior. I don't even know the highest amount of promotion they can give him there. But here is the thing that I really want to know. Joseph ran. Joseph did not fall. Joseph did not negotiate with sin. Joseph did not say, Madam, stop now, or I don't used to do this kind of thing. Joseph did not. Joseph literally ran, like, I cannot do this, I will not do this, and Joseph ran. Many times we stay in the midst of sin and start to negotiate with it. We see a nonsense chat and you ignore, or you just say, you know what, I'm just going to pretend as if I didn't see this, or you hear a silly conversation and you sit around there and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to ignore it and all that. You do not negotiate with sin. You do not negotiate with sin. The Bible said flee. This is a beautiful example of when it says flee from temptation, and Joseph fled. And why I think that is beautiful is, if Joseph had not run and he had not been imprisoned, there is a likelihood that Joseph would have still been in Potiphar's house. Those two prisoners who dreamt would not have met Joseph. Joseph would not have been able to interpret their dreams, which means the potter would not have been able to escalate and tell Pharaoh, which means Joseph might not have gotten to the palace. Not that might not, Joseph would not have gotten to the palace, because sin usually truncates our destiny. And I think it's just beautiful. And that's my second point. My third point is linked to the second point, and it is the fact that oftentimes there is a cost for standing for the truth. Do you see? So you would expect many times, not many times, the Bible calls us to always stand for the truth, to say what is true, to stand by what is right. But many times there is a cost, and the world often meets us with consequence for standing for the truth. So Joseph stood for the truth. He did not sleep with Potiphar's wife. He was imprisoned for it. So being falsely accused most times is the repercussion for doing what is right. So you are the only one in your office who is not taking bribe. You are the one who, when people are doing what is false or negative, you stand up for the truth. Of course, people start to tell you you are barbarian, you are doing too much. You do not get, unlike the others, you actually do not get immediate reward. But trust me, there is a reward. Many times it seems slow, and many times it is physical and actual punishment for standing with what is truth, just like Joseph. But what happens is, you do not truncate your destiny or your future or the plan God has for you. Yes, it might seem like you are being punished then, and yes, you might be meted a heavy amount of punishment for standing for the truth, but you preserve your destiny when you do that. You preserve your assignment, you preserve your mission and what God has called you to. That's my third insight, that many times standing for the truth comes with consequences, but it is a consequence that preserves your destiny and your assignment. Number 4, this has to do with the butler's word. I don't know if any other person or if most of us caught it. So Joseph interpreted the dreams of the butler and the baker and said, please, when you go out there, tell Pharaoh I'm here. I was just a innocent, good-looking young guy that one madam just somewhere, because I did not agree, just falsely accused me. Just, you have the ear of the king. When you get there, just tell him that I'm wallowing here and all that. And the guy said, my guy, you will interpret dream for me. Trust me, I got your back. As I'm going there now, I'm telling Pharaoh, uncle left prison 2 good years. 2 good years. I wasn't going to say this before, but it brings me, it kind of, I digress a bit, that we can't place our, what's the word now? We can't place our hope on humans. Do you know how hopeful Joseph must have felt, knowing that the potter was leaving and that soon enough he would be called? That soon enough, I have told him, he has promised me. I helped him do a palace. But 2 good years, the Bible actually says that the potter forgot. We cannot base our hope on humans. The potter actually forgot. This wasn't wickedness now. He actually forgot. And then Pharaoh dreamt. And then Pharaoh called and, he's saying, who can interpret my dreams and all that. And the guy said, Abajo, I knew a guy, one cool guy in prison. This was what happened. He did and did and did. But here is what the potter said. And I need to read it from the Bible. And he said, and it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, it was, so it was. Me he restored unto my office, and him he earned. Now that him is referring to the baker, because two people dreamt. One was restored, the other one was killed. That particular phrasing it caught my attention, because he said, me he restored unto my position, and him he earned. That phrase seemed to indicate that the outcome of their lives and their destiny was caused by Joseph. He could have said, as I interpreted it, that is how it was. I was restored to my office and the other guy was hung. But he said, he restored and him he hung. So this now brings the question, or raises the question, was Joseph merely revealing what God had ordained, or did his interpretation carry a prophetic weight that actually directed the outcomes of those men's life? So with what that guy said, the outcome of their life wasn't because of the dream they dreamt. It was because of what Joseph said about the dream that they dreamt. So the question is, if Joseph had interpreted something else for the baker who was hung or killed, maybe something positive, is there a possibility that he would not have? Because this potter thinks that there is a possibility that he won, because he attributed whatever happened not to their dreams, but to what Joseph said about their dreams. And I think that was beautiful. So, me he restored and him he hung. That blew my mind. And you can only find that translation in the KJV. I noticed that the other translations didn't actually phrase it like that, and I noticed it in the KJV, and it was just beautiful to read. And my fourth insight is what I call the wisdom of the 20% principle. So Joseph had told Pharaoh that of course there was going to be 7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine, and the abundance, according to what do you call it now? Pharaoh's dreams, the fat cows, the thin cows ate the ugly cows, and even after they ate them, it didn't feel as if they had eaten anything. So it was indicating that there was going to be 7 years of harvest that was going to be followed by 7 years of famine, and that the years of famine would be so intense that it wouldn't even seem as if there had been 7 years of abundance. And this 7 years of abundance was going to be like massive abundance. It wasn't the kind of abundance or harvest they normally had. It was specifically abundance. And so the plan was, we would keep 1/5. 1/5 is 20% of anything we get, and then that will sustain us for the 7 years of famine. So let it sink in. Imagine you are yielding 100%. You're enjoying, you're flangering, you're getting 100%. And then you are saving just 20% of that 100%. And then you got broke. You lost your job, you lost your house, you lost everything. But somehow, that 20% was able to preserve you. Do you know what that means? It means that all along, the Egypt could have survived on 20%. In the years of harvest, they actually really could have survived on 20%. They could have survived. So this kind of removed the scales in my eyes concerning what we mostly understand as harvest or scarcity. And this is the way I wrote it. They could have lived on 20%. Even during abundance. The 100% lifestyle was unnecessary excess. You see? So oftentimes, times of abundance can lead to wastage and overconsumption. So when you have excess, you are likely to overconsume, because it makes sense that you are yielding 100%, and all along you could actually live on 20%. And mind you, Egypt was not the only ones, or they were not the only ones who survived on this 20%. Neighboring nations were coming to Egypt to literally buy this food. They were keeping only 1/5, 20%. I think there's a beautiful principle there, and this is actually what I wrote down, and I'll just read it to you. I said that oftentimes many of us struggle because we eat seed and call it bread. God says He gives both seed and He gives bread. Now, as Christians, the one thing we have to do is we have to be able to discern which is which, because oftentimes than none, or more times than none, they look alike. You need to be able to discern, is this seed or is this bread? So what you think you need always stretches to match what you have. When you have 100,000, you can finish 100,000. When you have 100,000, you have needs that meets that 100,000. Do you get? Need arises that meets that 100,000. That is when you know that you haven't eaten ice cream in a long time. That is when you know that you need to buy something or this and that. But when you have, say, something lower, you find out that your needs meet that. So your needs always stretches to match what you have. So just as a task tends to fit the time you allow for it, our spending tends to expand to fit the resources we think we have. So if the Egyptians could survive on 20% during famine, it means that the 100% they were actually initially having or consumed every time were unnecessary. It was just excess disguised as need. And I really liked that I kind of caught that God was telling these people to keep just a fraction, not half, just a fraction. And they were actually able to survive on it. And I think that that's a beautiful principle that maybe we should look into. Do you see? It could be a beautiful principle that we start to kind of, especially as youths, that we start to imbibe in our life. We shouldn't eat everything. We shouldn't spend everything. Let's even use this as a principle. 20%. Yes, you have 100 naira, keep 20 naira. You have 10,000, keep 2,000. Let's try and practice this principle and, kind of see how it sustains you during lean seasons. And I think my fifth insight it's a funny one. So these brothers or this family, they literally left Simeon in prison. So we know the story. Go and bring your brother Benjamin. Except if you do not bring him, I believe you guys are lying. Of course, Joseph knew what he was doing. At this point, he was just messing with them. I knew that at that point of course, the anger was still there and all that. He was really just messing with them. And maybe he just wanted to even find out that if these people could do that to me, who knows? Maybe they've killed Benjamin himself. Maybe they've done something to him. So you say you have a younger brother, no problem. Go and bring him and all that. So of course he needed a collateral. So he kept Simeon. So they went to, he said, do not come back, do not set your face, or you not look upon my face if I do not see your brother. So they go home. They said we should bring Benjamin. Daddy Jacob said, you people are not going anywhere with Benjamin. You people already helped me to kill my Joseph. You're not going anywhere with Benjamin. These people started eating. They ate food now finished. It was funny because I felt it was not until the food finished they remembered that Simeon is in prison. And I truly believe that the food they went to get was not 2 weeks worth of food. It must have been months worth of. So Simeon was languishing in prison while these people were eating food and kind of only came to eat when the food had finished. And Jacob was like, they should go get more. And they're like, Daddy, we can't go. This man said that he does not want to see us if we do not come with Benjamin. Of course, he was angry. Why did you open your mouth to say that you have a brother? You people cannot keep quiet, all those kind of, yeah. But I kind of felt it was funny. I was like, hi, this people literally left Simeon. But then again, maybe it was just God's way of making him have a taste of their medicine, to enjoy a little bit of prison experience that, Joseph had to endure for years. And the last insight I have was, on the turning of Judah. It was just so beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time, that at the end, the same Judah who was like, let's sell this young man and all that, was the one who would lay down his life in exchange for Benjamin. Of course, it's like, sorry, sir. Anytime I read that place, I feel a certain way. So you see him really just trying to appeal to Joseph. At this point, they do not even know he's their brother yet. You see him really trying to appeal to Joseph and saying, sir, I understand, but this is what happened. We came here, you asked us our family, we said we have a father, we said we had a brother, you said we should bring our brother. He narrated everything. I could feel Judah's heart breaking as he was trying to explain that. I could feel the weight of all of them remembering what they had done and wondering if this was God punishing them for what they did to Joseph. And I could really see him speaking in the hope that no matter what happens, this Egyptian, Lord would actually let us go with Benjamin. Whatever you do, sir, take me instead. Whatever you want to do, let my life be the one on the line. And I think that was also a beautiful foreshadowing of the coming of Christ, who actually came from the line of Judah. And that is all the insights that we have today. I hope you enjoyed today's reading. Up next, we would be reading tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be day 5, and we'll be reading from Exodus